All right. So here we go today. I appreciate everybody spending the time joining me and Cecilia to learn more about her software journey and why she went with Better Impact. And today we'll discuss volunteer software and to see like just common issues everybody's facing, and then learning more about from Cecilia's journey, like where she was at. She may have been in a position that a lot of you may be resonating with right now, maybe not having a solution, tracking things on spreadsheets, or using something else that's just not working. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get the presentation started here. And I'm just going to share my screen real quick, and then I'll introduce everybody to Cecilia. All right, and then we can make this as interactive as possible. If anybody has any questions, feel free to raise your hand or enter something like in the comment section if you have any questions about anything we're discussing today. And there's going to be time for Q&A as well, so don't feel like you have to ask right away as well. We'll definitely have some time later on. Again, my name's Micah with Better Impact. I've been with the company for almost 3 years now, surprisingly. I joined the company after moving from my hometown in the Kansas City area, and then moved up here in the western half of the United States, actually all the way in the Pacific Northwest in the Seattle area. And found that what I love doing here is love going on hikes with my now fiance. Graduated before I moved up here. I was at the University of Missouri, graduated there with the Bachelor of Science in Psychology, since I've always had a fascination with people and learning from human behavior, and it ended up me leading to my role up here as a software sales advisor. Now, Cecilia, feel free to introduce yourself.
Okay, hi. So I am with Hope Women's Center. We are a nonprofit out of the Phoenix, Arizona area. We actually have 6 centers. I have been with the organization for about 10 years. And right now I'm a center manager of a center. So I deal directly with the volunteers, but I'm also the executive administrator. So I help all the other centers with, in some capacity with volunteer onboarding, and also as just all the processes for the centers. Anyway, so we'll tell you a little more. I guess I need to tell you I'm a mother of 4 grown daughters. And I've been married to my husband for about 35 years, and I've been in Arizona that long.
Yeah, and it's probably nicer weather compared to where all of us are experiencing right now in the storm. I bet you it's over 50 degrees over there, right?
It's been pretty cold. It's been colder than usual here.
Colder than usual. What's that?
So 50s. So
50s.
That's 50s in February and March. It's cold here.
Yeah, 50s is cold for Arizona. Up here in Seattle area, that's everyday weather just about. But yeah, thank you for your introduction, Cecilia. So before we continue more into your story, I just want to give an overview of what we're presenting today. So we're going to quickly talk about just some common problems all of us may be facing, and it's kind of crazy how much we may have in common with the different kinds of services that we work with. There could be people in here that work with cities, other service centers for women, youth, refugee immigrant services, food banks, animal shelters. There's a common theme of being short on time and then even short on money. And we'll ask like some questions on that just to see how everybody like relates to that as well. And then I'll share a brief study from G2 that surveyed over 1,000 people inquiring about job satisfaction and then the softwares that they're using. And then that'll lead into Cecilia's journey, where she'll share her tips for finding the right solution for your program. And if we have time at the end, we'll be able to provide like a high basic level overview of volunteer impact. And there also will be other links and resources. And one of those would be a comprehensive online demonstration for more time finding, watching the more specific features on here. So going right to it. So just briefly mention, common problem a lot of us are facing is it's taking too much time tracking the people with our program. A lot of the times it's because of data entry on the back end. And a lot of that can start at the very beginning of the process from the application form. Many times there are places out there, it could be done by paper, or maybe there's like a brief form on the website, or somebody emails you, and then you take that and you put it on a spreadsheet, which can take a ridiculous amount of time. And by finding a software that can help skip a lot of those steps, it can automatically like capture the information, send you an email, and then have all that information ready for you. So it's just causing a lot of disconnection in terms of how you're doing your work. Like maybe you have to follow up with another email, or open another platform, open another spreadsheet, and that's just taking time away to help grow your program, because all that time can instead be used to have a concentrated effort on like engagement and recruitment, maybe finding your volunteers who have expressed an interest, want to sign up in the coming weeks, blasting communication emails for different ways that they can get involved, and having access to a calendar. And then another part besides the time is the budget restraint. Sometimes different solutions may cost a lot, just depending on how they bill for. So finding the right ones could be challenging, especially with the limits on budget. And then the last one's not to be overlooked. So like the security, you don't want to sacrifice any convenience for the expense of security. And that's why one of the reasons why Better Impact, we've went all the way and gotten ourselves ISO certified, just showing how we manage and keep data secure. And it's a certification we keep up to date at all the time, as we have a high priority making sure everybody's information is stored safe. And when looking for a vendor, you want to make sure that they're not sharing any data with anyone, and that everything's being stored as yours, and then you can take out at any time. As you cannot stress more with what's out there now on making sure that you find something that's going to keep your information safe, because you want to look out for your organization, make sure you don't run into any trouble along the way. So just based on that brief, those brief points mentioned, go ahead and leave it out to people in the chat, just so we can get a feel with which of those problems resonated the most. So is it, are you right now like putting too much time into entering things into spreadsheets or tracking hours? Press 1 for that. And you see all the options on here, ranging with missing time to lead and engage with your volunteers, or security aspects. All right. Nice. Thank you for your responses. So we have a few people, all of the above. Yep. And all of the above, you're not alone. That's a lot. That's a lot of people nowadays. It's kind of crazy. We're in the age of technology, but we're spending a lot of time using multiple things. And that's why a lot of us are here today. So yeah, we have even more all of the above, 1 and 3. I've seen a lot of 1s. 2, 4, and 5. So yep, security. 2 and 5, using too many tools and want more security. And a 4 too. Yeah. Affordable tools that leadership will approve. And that's surprisingly common as well. There might be something out there, but maybe there's hesitancy in a step towards gaining that approval for whatever reason, maybe pushing projects back. That's something I've experienced when people have met with me before, is making sure that they have a plan, they're able to articulate like why new software is needed. So appreciate everybody's answers here. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And so right now, with everybody joining today, what's being used right now? Are you using like spreadsheets? Are you using a VMS? If that's the case, hit 2 for that. And then other, we can hit 3. And if you feel like sharing, please let me know what other means, as I'm kind of curious, if it's not a spreadsheet or a VMS, what is it that you're using to track? Okay, so we have a few spreadsheets. And then we have those evaluating other softwares, currently using Volunteer Hub, considering Volgistics. Those are some common options out there. There's a lot of ones, and that's the number I'm expected to see the most. We think that we're in 2023, everybody's using something, but when the majority of people right now are on spreadsheets, which is crazy to think with the time that we're in right now. Access. Oh, don't remind me about Access. Yeah. I don't even know how to use Access. I tried it at one point in school and they've never had to use it again. So yeah, we'll definitely have to look at something else there. Okay, looks like that's everyone. Okay, and then the last one here is so in your opinion, what's most at risk if a change doesn't occur sooner rather than later? Are we most worried about turnover in terms of like on the volunteer end, the staff end, wasted money, damage to the org, or something else that's not mentioned on here? Wasted money? Volunteer turnover? Seen a lot of 1s and 3s, so those are definitely, yeah, very, especially one, because you want to make sure that your volunteers stay retained. Otherwise, there's no program if there's no volunteers. So you definitely, I definitely see that being one of the more important ones. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, which just brings out a quick statistic from the G2 survey. So a couple of years ago, G2 ran a survey across 1,600 people asking a whole bunch of different questions regarding their work satisfaction and the tools that they're using. And one of the questions I found interesting is that just a little over half of people are dissatisfied with their work because of a software that's not working or a lack of the software. And I just found that a big one. And something that's kind of ties us more that the article talks about as well is the impact on software, not only on work satisfaction, but also life as well. Because if you think about it, if your job requires you to use a tool that's not working very well or spreadsheets, it can leak into your personal life as well. So that's why when they asked another question, if the like how did it affect your does having the wrong tool like affect your personal life? That had a response of over 60% that said yes. So it's not something that can only, if it's bad enough, it can lead into your personal life. So that's why like software nowadays goes a lot into being happy at work, and then being efficient at work, and then having time for your life, providing that work-life balance. So sometimes it gets overlooked, and that was one of the things I saw in there that I found really interesting. And the last thing to share before I hand it off to Cecilia is around 1 in 8 employees quit a job because of a mismatched software, and that could be a lot of you out there that may have happened to you. And when you think about it more, this is for one specific, quitting a job for one specific reason. And this is around 12.5% for the specific reason being because the wrong tool is being used. And that's a pretty big number when you think of something for like that specific of a reason on here. So yeah, just the last thing I wanted to share on that helpful report that I found. And our goal here at Better Impact is to provide less of that and then more happies and smiles. So that way you get your work done on time. You can enjoy your life. You can focus on reaching out to your volunteers for very specific things and helping grow your program, just making it more enjoyable, not only for you, but for the volunteers end as well, putting more power in their hands. Like Cecilia is going to talk about some features that helps the volunteer control their own journey and keep up with their volunteer information. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it on to Cecilia.
Okay, so just basically, Hope Women's Center is a faith-based, trauma-informed nonprofit organization that provides vulnerable women and teen girls with education, mentoring, and material support. So our mission is really to encourage, engage, and equip our women and vulnerable teen girls in any kind of difficult situation. So we were founded in 1984 in Apache Junction, which is where I'm the center manager at, and now we have 6 centers. So in 2022, which is last year, we were able to serve 1,406 women across all our centers with a consistent pool of about 400 volunteers. These volunteers provided classes, mentoring, donation sorting, reception help, as well as any other services that were needed. We also hosted a number of groups, volunteer groups throughout the year, and all the centers, because we all have kind of specific projects to work on. So I've been with Volunteer Impact since 2019, at the end of 2019. And before that, we used Cool Focus by Way Cool. Do you want to move it to the next one?
Yeah, I'll move it to the next one. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some of the challenges that we had, again, I started with Hope Women's Center when we were only one center. So we had a manageable number of volunteers to work with. We would use track the hours and on Way Cool, but we had all our applications on paper. So all the center managers eventually had to convert the information into Way Cool. And also we had to track the hours on paper, and then the paper hours, that tracking had to go into Way Cool for us to know, to get a report of volunteers. The training, we also had to do it in person. We went from 3 times to 4-hour slot to, we had to cross-train everybody in person on all our procedures and our policies and our statement of faith and all of that. So the onboarding part of it, of the volunteer, was time consuming and labor intensive, but also it just involved the training and not the actual communicating with the volunteer. So again, the key pain points is it was manual, just things were done on paper. It was time consuming as we grew to more centers and more volunteers. The time away from volunteer engagement, I find it now that I've done both, in which when we did all the training in person, it was a good situation, but now that we're able to do the training online, I can spend my initial contact with a volunteer on her story, how is she better suited to volunteer with us, where is a better place for her to volunteer at. So I really find it more rewarding as opposed to me spending all that time doing the training in person. And before, we didn't have a volunteer app and no way to train online, like I said. So now having a volunteer app and training online is important. And if you can go to the next one.
Oh, there you go.
So I think I'm just getting ahead of myself. So we grew larger. We needed to streamline an onboarding process. There was just a lot of data entry, and also we just didn't want to miss out on any of the hours of the volunteer information. We did a needs assessment at the end of 2019. We wanted to improve on tracking volunteer hours and also having volunteer applications online, and also having being able to have multiple centers together. Before, with Way Cool, we made it work by fudging the system and using different dates, but this was much better. I was the one that looked at a number of volunteer. I actually just did a Google search and said 10 best volunteer applications available. So then price was a big thing because we are a nonprofit. So then I narrowed it down to 3, and the other 2 that I did, I think that's part of it. Was I supposed to talk about that, Micah?
Oh yeah, you
okay.
could. Yeah.
Okay, so then we ended up I did a pros and cons on all of them, and I presented it to our CEO, and we decided that we wanted to go further just with better impact, and we had a demo presentation with them. At the time, we did have a volunteer coordinator, so her and I did the better impact demo presentation. You want to do the next one?
Yeah, there we go.
So why did we select better impact? Or better volunteer impact, that I call it better impact. I can't remember what was the logistics and volunteer mark. I think we were looking at user friendly. That was a big thing. Being able to use more than one center. Also, the having a portal for the volunteer to be able to track their own hours was good. We also had volunteers that, I didn't put that in here, but we had volunteers that volunteer at different organizations, and sometimes they use better impact so they could use ours at the same time. We were able to, after some training, it takes a learning curve, we figured out how to do the e-learning modules. So we were able to put all our in-person volunteer into training videos. So now all we need to do is just send the links to the volunteers, and they're able to do that from their computers, their iPads, their phones, and also they can also track their own hours, which was a huge thing. Yeah, so and I don't even know where to say this. Okay, go ahead to the next one, just in case you have that. What have I done with my time since switching to volunteer impact? Well, I've been busy at other things as well, but as far as volunteering, like I said, just engaging with the volunteers firsthand at the very beginning, it just helps to know where to, that we couldn't do what we do at our organization without our volunteers. And it's very important for me to place that we are a good fit for them and they're a good fit for us. So it gave me a little more opportunity for that. We have it set up to where we ask 4 initial questions, and usually that will weed out if somebody's not wanting to be a part of what we do. So it kind of helps doing that as well. Again, there's always a learning curve, but there's tutorials that help you figure out how to do things. Sometimes I have to do a tutorial to remember how I did it the last time, but it's always there. Anyway, so there's always somebody you can do instant chat with. I don't do the financial part of it, so I can't really tell you financially how it's doing that. We're definitely very careful about who we are very quick to deactivate volunteers that we don't have no longer with us, so that we're not paying for all the volunteers, if you know what I mean. It keeps us on our toes. And also all the other center managers have learned how to use it. They're able to maneuver the volunteer managing part of it. So
yeah. Does anybody have any questions about anything Cecilia shared at all, or? Because I have a question. One thing is so now that you have a place to like store data, like in the software, run reports, like what reports are you getting like now much better that you couldn't do like with Waycool?
So every month I'm the one that tracks the volunteer hours. So I'm able to see where, with the way it lets you set it up the way you do it. So I'm able to do a custom report and to see how many volunteers we had in each area, in education, in our children's program, people that are mentoring, donation sorting. So we were able to custom make it so that we have those specific hours, and it'll give me how many hours and how many volunteers. Also, I can do a report on volunteers for the month, and then it tells me all the names of the volunteers and how many hours, all cumulatively, whatever the word is. So there's also other reports that you can run, and there's also tutorials on that.
Yeah. And there's tutorials on how to build like each section of the platform on our website now. So a lot of the times when a new customer comes in, they'll trial it and use those videos to help like build out their account and test it out to see if it's a good fit. Because something that you did so with when you're looking at the other 3 options, did you have like another trial, and did you have people like test like which one's better, or did you or is it
at the time we just looked at better impact, and we just felt by just the user-friendly part of it, we felt that it was, and we had a trial period, so it was good for us to try it. So, and another thing is that the way it's set up is we have an enterprise account, and then we have an account for each of our centers. So each center stands alone, but they're part of our general account. So it's so I usually run the numbers specifically for each center, and then I just add the numbers to do what's the word, to do a complete number.
Got it. And then to answer, so there's some questions in the chat here. So all of our versions do include the e-learning component, whether you're in a standard, plus, enterprise. Our software itself, it's all inclusive with its features. So it comes with the volunteers portal. You can have as many admins as you like as well, and can even customize what their access is by feature. And then the reporting, all the bells and whistles. And Jennifer was asking if we can show an example of an online orientation on here, on what that would look like. So it sounds like Cecilia, like you send the link to them, right? For
So
those.
we have just an email that is already set up with all the links. And then they're given instructions to go to that link, and that link takes them to their portal and they sign in. And then they go to that specific e-learning module, and we have it set up so it's a video presentation. And then after that, they go to like 2 or 3 questions, just so that's the way we track that they've done the presentation, that's done the training. They have to answer those 2 or 3 questions on the training, and then they automatically get credited for that presentation. So if we do an e-learning module, that's how we do it.
Got it. And then so Cecilia, she has a saved email template, which you can have as many email templates in the software as you'd like, and it already includes like links to those specific lessons. One other way that I'm showing now is you can also, not only can you send them privately, but if you want to, you can have some available in the training library as well for them to take at any time. And whichever route you choose, it'll lead them to the lesson that they need to take, which it's commonly like, do you use like YouTube videos, Cecilia? What's most of your content again?
We made the videos, and you know what? I wasn't the one that made the videos. It was like a PowerPoint presentation. And I don't know if in the YouTube format, that is not what I was involved in part. Somebody else did. The volunteer coordinator is the one that set that up, and she's not with us anymore.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, that just highlights there's different ways you can set up your e-learning content. It could be as simple as dropping a link to a YouTube video. And of course, there's ways to embed it on here, and even with PowerPoints as well, or you can drag and drop content. So right here, as I'm showing, is a hand hygiene training on here, and it has GIFs on here just showing instructions on how to wash hands properly. And then the questions that are asked come afterwards here, and they're in multiple choice format. You can have as many questions as you'd like, and you can set what that pass rate is. And then once the volunteer completes it, it'll let them know whether they've passed or failed. And if they pass, they can have a step automatically completed. So there's something in the software called qualification. It's a custom field that matches volunteers with opportunities. So if a volunteer has this training hand hygiene here, and once they pass this lesson, it's going to automatically update that step's been completed. And that might make the difference for them to be able to sign up for new roles in their opportunity calendar for signing up. And then there's a question, if they watch one of those modules, can you see that it was done? Correct. So once a volunteer has completed it, you can receive an email notification that the volunteer has completed it. And then the step that I briefly talked about was there's even an automation piece that will automatically update this training as passed. Did that help answer your question, Jennifer?
Now, one thing that we do not use is because our organization does not lend itself to it is the scheduling part of it. And you can do, we function without it. We're just not able, we don't have jobs that the volunteer can sign up for. It is just something that we control. So we don't use that, but it has that feature as well.
Yeah, and that comes down to the robust and the customization of the platform. You could have it to where you're just like Cecilia, you can assign on the back end for those volunteers. And it could be different for each activity. You don't have to be stuck with one approach. You can have a mix. You can have a mixture of both. So if a volunteer were to sign up, since we're here, they would go and find an opportunity in their calendar. And it could be set in a way where they're only seeing the roles they can sign up for that they already have the specific requirements for. So that's when those qualification fields come into play. So maybe passing an online orientation or doing a specific training that might make the difference for me to be able to see a new shift populate for me to sign up. I can always filter it if needed, but we don't need to. We'll just go into what a shift can look like. It provides a description of what it is before I commit to it. You can drag and drop links, videos, images in this description. So that way a volunteer knows beforehand what it is they're signing up for. And once the volunteer signs up, then they'll either be on the schedule right away or approval will be needed. And you can, again, with each activity that's created in the software, you can set up its own rules. There's probably some they schedule, they have the requirements, they're automatically placed, confirmed on the calendar, while there's others that may need follow-up admin approval. And there's a built-in report on there that helps you track that of who has signed up and what approval that they need. Oh, no, you're not getting ahead of us. Can volunteers sign up at different locations or sites? So are we talking about like there's different departments, or because different location sites? I just want clarification on that.
So if you're talking about how we have different centers. So let's say somebody is a volunteer at the Apache Junction Center, but they want to volunteer at the Phoenix Center. Is that what you're asking?
Oh, okay. So they would be at different locations, sometimes outside the without computers. They'd be at different.
So you have access. So you can be a volunteer at different centers. You just need to be accepted as a volunteer for each of those locations, and then you can use your phone. You don't need a computer. Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Cecilia. All right. Okay. And then is there a way for volunteers at different locations, sites, or in different groups to communicate with each other? And see for administration to see that community. Oh, so you volunteers communicating with one another? Okay. So good thing we're right here. And then I'll get to Elena's question. So there's a contact section right here for a volunteer to reach out to anyone who's set as the contact admin, or it could be a group of volunteers, which are committees, and it's email based. So right now, I'm a volunteer here in the office admins, and we're a committee. So we can send an email from here and communicate with each other, and it'll go to everybody's natural email inbox. There's not a chat room specifically, but there's an email based way for volunteers in the same committee that you create on the back end, and you plug and play which volunteers are in which committee, and they can email each other. If they're, and they'll the volunteers will communicate with each other if they are in the same committee, and if you enable those communications. So they would just be set in the same committee. The admins won't be able to see they won't be able to see the communications on there, since it goes to everybody's natural email inbox. If an administrator sends an email from the software to volunteers, it's possible for them to see a history of what they sent and where, and you can customize which people on your staff can see those. And then just going back, I just want to address Elena's question. How's the platform used for donors? So there is a donor management platform that syncs with our software. I won't get into all the details due to time constraints, but in other words, just like how a volunteer can sign up through an application form on here and sign up for shifts, there's a way for them to register as a donor and then make a donor contribution through their personalized portal on here, which you can run reports on the back end. And that module integrates with our volunteer module. And you can even set for like some people on your staff to only see the donor side or volunteer side. And someone can also be a volunteer and a donor at the same time. They can choose to volunteer or donate within their personalized portal. Can volunteers sign documents to the system through care? This is a common question on the like for the application process or for upkeeping over time. So there's not a direct feature for the software to do an electronic signing, but there are ways to go about for either capturing some a saved document or having them check a box before they get started on volunteering. So in the application form, you can customize a policies text box that will let you check that the volunteers agree to specific policies that you lay out. And you can even drop like a link to documents where they can e-sign elsewhere. And if you wanted to record that signed document, it is possible for them to upload that document to the application form once that saved version is signed, since you can build ways for them to upload any type of document on the application form. So when they submit, that will be carried over. So does the donor, so we don't have any single sign-on integration with Donor Perfect, but we do offer an API at rest. With the help of your IT team, it can be possible to port data from Better Impact into another solution. There'll be a one-way out type feed and have to be something that that an IT team would look at, but we don't have any other like single sign-on integration besides Sterling Volunteers for like background checks, but there's no direct integration with Donor Perfect. And then how do the volunteers opt into the group? I'll actually go to Cecilia on this one just to see. So do you utilize that committee's feature at all for the volunteers?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
We don't. We assign volunteers to teach classes, to volunteer in the different areas, and they just have a set time that they come. So there's no scheduling, no committees or anything like that. We don't use that.
Yeah. So a way that can be done is like in the application form, a volunteer can check that they want to be part of a committee, and you can run a report based on that, and then you can plug that volunteer to opt to be a part of that committee. These are great questions. I really appreciate everybody engaging and asking good questions for us to discuss. Let me just see if there's any more upcoming. You're welcome, Barry. Okay, so are the pages showing customizable? So there's some parts that are customizable. The big one that is the branding aspect on here. So like you can upload your own banner on here. You can change your color scheme so it reflects the colors and the themes of your organization. And it starts all the way at the application form as well. And it'll retain that branding aspect all the way through. Then you can embed Facebook or Twitter on here, so the volunteer can see what you're posting on those outlets. And then there's a custom section, news section here where you can drag and drop any particular messages you want your volunteers to be aware of on here. Share any specific files for them to have quick access to, like a handbook, a how-to guide. And then this is also another part of the recognition that you can add in on here is you can, with those qualifications briefly discussed, you can associate a virtual badge with it. So once a volunteer achieves it, now they have a virtual badge that they can see in their personal portal on here. So like that hand hygiene training, once I pass that training, now I have it, now I have the badge. So it just automatically poofs it onto me, since with the e-learning, it automatically updates that. And then when you run reports, like for those who hit a certain number of hours, you can find a list for those volunteers. So then that way you can update that they've hit this metric, and then it will give them a badge for hitting a certain number of hours or anniversaries. Are you using any of the badges at all, Cecilia, for anything, or anything you want to share on that?
Not at this time. We definitely have a way to track when they finish a training, but we are not using the badge. But again, I am on the administrative side of it. We do have a volunteer coordinator that couldn't be here. So I was kind of, since it's all about getting started, but so I can't answer that, sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. Everybody uses the software like completely different.
But we do have our branding, we do have our logo and all of that.
All right. Okay, let's see. And then going back to some questions, can we assign volunteers into a committee if they did? That's right. So it doesn't matter if a volunteer communicates with you or not. In their profile in the back end, there's a committee section where you're able to check what committee you want them to be in. So if there's like a particular role, once they're assigned to it, you want them to be in that committee, you'll be able to determine that as well. Carrie's wondering if volunteers can run their own hours reports, which they can. So there's a whole
So on my end, you have to approve the hours once a volunteer turns them in. So you have to keep up with that. So you might run into, it doesn't look like I have enough hours, and that's because it's pending for you to approve. But yes, they can run their own reports.
And that's and we'll show an example on the admin side as well. Yeah, this is the volunteers portion right here. So this is just showing a built-in summary of what they've done. So for their whole time volunteering, their hours this year, and then a bar graph just showing their past 12 months over here. But they can also run a custom report on here and choose a specific date range on here. They can enter it or just do a quick like, how have I done so far this year? And they'll be able to save it on their computer and export it if needed. It's going to let them know what exactly they did, when they did it, how much time they gave, and their total hours here at the bottom. So the volunteer has the power to track how many contributions they've been given over time through their own portal. Can you set up and do background checks through the system? And thanks for bringing that back up, Jennifer, because I did briefly mention we do offer an integration with one of the providers, Sterling Volunteers. Since there's not a direct background check running within the software, we do partner with them to allow you to do that with our integration. And the way how that works is you'll initiate that process from the volunteer's profile. They'll work on that app on that background check, and then there's going to be alerts on the back end for you that will let you know like where they are in the process, if they're approved. There's one ready to review, and then even without utilizing Sterling for integration, there's a way you can track when a background check expires, or any other like timely item like a driver's license, training that's expiring. Are there any other examples that you use, Cecilia, for the background for the expiring qualifications?
So you can do that, and also you can use it for like checking up on the client and the volunteers like once a year to see how they're doing, if they're continuing to be volunteers. But the background check has been really good for us because then it puts it on the volunteer. She has to pay directly to them. They use a credit card for that, so it's not on us. Before we used to do it ourselves. So we used to get all their information, they had to pay us, and then we had to discard their information after we did the background check. So that's a really nice feature for us as well.
All right.
And it's only about $20 per background check, as like normal.
Okay. And then it looks like this is a good time to switch over to the administrator view. So I'm signing in right here just so I can show an example of what a volunteer profile looks like. Okay, make sure I'm sharing the right screen. So here we are, I'm on the administrator side of things. And keep in mind, everybody can have their own login. You can create a specific login for somebody, give them full or partial access, and we do not bill based on number of admins. So at any point, you can always make a new admin profile if anybody needs access. And the first thing I will share, as it was requested, to see an example of a volunteer profile on here. So let's find Victoria here. So this is going to show like a summary of who this person is. So right off the bat, we're able to see like the contact information, their hours contributions on here, and you can find specific reports if needed on there as well. But yeah, the committees portion here's where we'll be able to add like which committee they belong in on here. So maybe if we ran a report showing if they want to be like communicating with other volunteers, we can go back on here and check that they want communications. So we can place them on that committee, or we could just check them in there and give them that communication. So then that way they can reach out with one another just in case they need to maybe pick up another shift from one another. Let's see, there's a new example of an application. I'll get to an example of the application as well. I think I even have that pulled up, so I'll be able to show that to you. But while we're here on the volunteers portal, so we can even save like private notes on here as well. So that way, and there's anything that we need to save on the volunteer on here, they'll never see it on here as well. It's only going to be admins who have access to the specific area. Cecilia, do you use this feature often?
Especially since we have a lot of volunteers coming in and doing new volunteer interviews, sitting down with us. So it's very helpful to me to say, on this date, I invited so-and-so for a tour. And then on this day she came in, and then some of the things that will remind me of her, and then what she's willing to do. And that stays in her file, so that if eventually, anyway, another center manager comes on, that's going to be on there, but she doesn't see that. Other center managers write things like purple hair, just so they remember her, or they say something about she really wanted to teach this class, so that you have that as a reminder.
All right.
But the volunteer never sees it. That's why we can say purple hair.
Yeah. And then some admins may not see it because they may not have access to that specific section as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to click every tab on here due to time constraints, but I just want to just overview and highlight, like this assign tab. This is where you can assign volunteers to specific activities on the back end, see their own schedule, edit or approve their hours, and even where if you need to fix their time clock, because not only can the volunteer like log hours, they can also use a time clock, just depending on which approach you want to use. Some roles, maybe it's they sign into a kiosk and they punch in and punch out, while others, they record the time after the fact. And then this is where you'd find reports specific for Victoria, and then like answers to their application form. So the contact information, that's all found here, and in their own personal portal, they can even make changes to these as well. That'll automatically update on the back end. Here's answers to like her application questions and any other custom fields that we're tracking here too. And then qualifications, a lot of the times are used for like steps being completed. Have they passed the background check? When is expired? Now I'm going to land on any on my alerts on my main page if there's something expiring on here, so then we can reach out to them. And then other things too, like where they want to volunteer. You can add as many of these general interests or like volunteer want ads as you like, so you can keep a constant list to know who wants to get engaged in a certain area. And like availability, so we can run reports to see who our weekend help is, and volunteers can go back and change this at any time in their personal portal, and then they'll automatically update on any like pre-made reports that you've already had for like evening weekday help or weekend help. All right, let me start the volunteer journey from the application form. So again, like I briefly mentioned, it's the whole experience is branded. Not everybody uses a landing page. Sometimes it's a link to an application form, and then you have other ways on like your own website where you'll advertise those. But I just want to show an example of like a landing page on here, so then that way you know what tool can be provided. You'll get a space here where you can place like your most important messages for recruiting volunteers right here, like what they receive getting involved. You can even have your own specific like opportunities they can sign up for, so that way when they take a look at it, they'll be able to see areas of interest of where they'd be spending their time. And then once they review the whole page, and they can even see the social media like feeds on here too, they'll go ahead and fill in an application. And this is where I briefly mentioned on like the policies that they have to agree to. You can, if you want to, you can customize your own policies here, provide a link to a document if you want them to sign a signature outside the platform. And then they'll either make a new account, which is very basic information. It can just be bare bones contact information like name, address, phone number, email. They may already have an account as well, which they can self-help their username, password to help remember it. And then whichever route they approach, they'll be able to check.
To attach to our meeting thing so that people can start putting stuff in there. This is thing too. Like we're redoing Happy Hour. It started to feel like I was reading.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did somebody have
That's a
a
good
question?
example. That's
or-
fine. I put all the departments on there. But then there's also a suggestion for like, how would you actually group it?
Right.
And then who would be the agent? And that would help us see how many portals.
Right. Cause like, yeah, for me, it's like, there is like, I would be the owner, but like.
I don't think it's a
a lot of
question.
the
I
stuff
think
that I'm telling
somebody's just
people-
I think
having
somebody,
a background conversation.
yeah,
So,
okay, I was just double checking.
Right.
So yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
uh,
So like that.
if you could please, if anybody that is not muted, if you could please mute, so
So
that
like,
will
so you would have like
go through
ILS
here on the
coordination or
application
something,
form.
some.
And
routine
And Lucy,
of who owns
Lucy, you're
it.
not muted.
I think it's like, I wish that I could think of a better way to say that, because I feel like.
Micah, you
I don't
can
know
mute.
what the ILS
Oh,
is.
oh, I can
So,
mute.
like,
Okay,
and I
fine.
Go to
don't know what
Lucy and go to the three dots
Okay.
at the
Damn
go.
department called circulation,
Circulation, yeah,
but like that's
Yeah.
the best term to use for what I'm talking about, because it's.
Hold
it's
on,
think of
all
it as-
I'm sharing my screen so I can find who's.
It's
I really
the agent, it's the items, it's the like, it's all.
it's not just the catalog.
Okay, here we go.
It's
There we go. I apologize, everyone. Good thing I was able to find that there. And going back to the application. So this is that general availability chart that we showed all the volunteers in. So that way, when they apply, you'll know like right away that I'm available on the weekend. So that way you can better allocate me to anywhere where I want to get involved. That's going to meet my availability. And then checking like how I would like to volunteer. And then the application form can be as extensive as you like. You can closely track particular items. So when they answer specific questions like I'm vaccinated, you can be alerted on those as well. So then you can review proof, like even uploading their vaccine card on here if you would like. And then it could be like longer text boxes if you'd like to. So that way they can write in detail why they want to get involved. Can add dates, drop downs, like how'd you hear about us? And they can select one of the many options. And then you can track where you're gaining more of your volunteers. Or it could be like multi-selection check boxes right here. So if you have any services that require speaking other languages, you'll know who your bilingual people are. And once this is submitted, it's going to automatically move all this information over into the database. It'll send you an email, and it'll send the volunteer an email right away for what those next steps are, whether that be completing a background check or a training. So that way they know what to do next without being left hung up there. And yeah, that's summarizes the application form. They'll have access to their account, but they won't have access to like everything until they've complete certain steps. Like once they're an active volunteer, now it can be set up in a way where they're only signing up for roles that they're qualified for. They'll see like all the news. They can take trainings if you place training in their video libraries, and they can update any information over time, as you can choose like which of these items you want on here for them to go back and update. So that way you can keep your reporting up to speed there. Can each site or program? Oh, that's okay. Let's see. Hold on. Make sure I'm not missing any questions first. So you can. So Jody was asking, is it possible to use like different application forms? So that answer is yes. It will depend on the type of edition, because there's two editions. There's a standard and an enterprise. So for a standard, you can have up to 3 different application form types. And a common example of that can be like the main volunteer application form, group volunteering, youth volunteering services. But in our enterprise edition, it's structured in a different way where you have multiple sub accounts. So, and each sub account's like its own standard portal, so they can have their own application form. So for cases like cities where there's different departments, they can have like separate links, and a volunteer will click for those and they'll have their own questions. And once they like submit and apply, it'll land in that respective sub account for the person in that department or location to review that volunteer. And what would make us, Jennifer asked a really great question to help as we're wrapping up here shortly. What would make volunteer impact unique from other VM systems? Cecilia, did you want to answer first? Actually, I don't know if that's something you want to answer.
Okay, so I really love the fact that it's the volunteer is the one that enters the hours, but you need to be able to train them and have an expectations for that. So it depends on volunteer population. We have a lot of older women that use their phone to call people, but not to do anything else. So sometimes we have those issues, but we have a way to deal with that. But just that the being able to do the training online and then to track their own hours, to enter their own hours is big for us.
Yeah, and I would say I would refer to the users and what they say in our reviews. People love our user friendliness of our software, and the support too, since you can reach a human being and get a response within a couple of minutes. And then all of our helpful resources that we've taken the time to provide online to help answer questions, like all the videos on how to build each section of the software. And then my favorite feature out of all is the e-learning content, because not every platform has that. And then an app too, because there's even plenty of softwares out there that don't have an app for a volunteer to access on their phone, take and watch a training, pass a training. Now they can get involved more in the organization and do things like self-schedule if that's something you want to allow. And then for information about pricing, so there's going to be an email going out to everybody tomorrow, not only with a link for the recording, but a link to meet with me personally, which you can also find on our website. And that's where we'll be able to meet time to discuss pricing. And that's going to depend on everyone. It's dependent on the number of active and recurring volunteers. And then if you're an enterprise, the number of sub accounts. You're welcome, Jennifer. And then Jody, you may absolutely be able to a read-only access for custom fields, so you don't so that way no edits can be made to it if you want to have that as its setting. It can also be private on the back end only, but yeah, read only to the volunteers.
And I think, Mike, I think what she's saying is the way we have it set up, you have different levels of administrative access, and you can set it up. So you can say, as an administrator, you can do this, this, and that, but then you have a primo administrator, whatever you want to call it, a head honcho that has set everything up, and they can do anything, and you can assign that to other people. But you can have, like for us, our different center managers have limited administrative roles, and you can set those up. So yes, you can.
Thank you, Cecilia. And then now, since we're at the top of the hour, we're going to be wrapping up here. But before we do so, just want to give a big thanks to Cecilia and everybody in attendance. This was a very engaging audience today. So I'm very happy with all the different questions everybody's asking. I hope the resources in this webinar were like helpful. Hopefully drew some inspiration, helped you find, give you ideas to get you to moving your program in the right direction, finding the next platform for you all. I will mention there's going to be an upcoming webinar next month with my colleague Amy, who's the software sales advisor on the other side, on the other half of the United States, on the eastern side. She's going to be discussing programs engaging one-on-one with volunteers with different services, like volunteers at hospices working with patients or working with students at libraries. So again, big thanks to everyone and all of your engagement today. I'll get the recording sent out to everyone tomorrow, and then with other helpful resources and links. Thanks again, everyone. And thank you again, Cecilia.
Thank you, Micah.